I'm under the desk, okay? And I go to give that a go heave ho on the carpet, and I put my weight behind it, and it digs into the carpet, and I take that PC in the gut, and all you hear come out of the other side is, and she heard it, and I just was like, I wanted to crawl up and die. I just was like,
Oh man.
it's just like. Welcome to 10,000 Miles. Today's episode is with Jamaal Savwoir. Jamaal is an amazing guy. He's had a great career in technology, come up from desktop support to software engineering to architecture, working in government, working in private sector, and made his way into the channel back in 2008. You'll hear him tell his story about his journey. It's quite unique and really inspiring. I really enjoyed talking to him. Jamaal is always laughing. He's always having a good time. He's usually laughing at himself, but nonetheless, he's having a great time. I'm excited for you guys to really get to know Jamaal, so let's dive in. Jamaal, welcome to 10,000 Miles. How are you doing this evening, my friend?
I'm doing great, Vic. Great to see you, man.
You too, man. Well, I see behind you, it's daylight for you. And I'm approaching an evening here, although it's daylight for me. So super excited to have you on the show. I've always been a big fan of yours
Thanks,
since
man.
the day we met. Yeah, no, I really have. I mean that. That's not just show fluff. It's 100% honest truth there and being consumed here. Jamaal, when I met you, it was at a pretty cool time. You had come into an organization where I would say, no matter what role they put on your title, Master of Ceremonies was certainly in the job description in actuality. And, for those who may listening, I work in the channel. That is, sort of for liking it to anything else. It's like the brokerage of technology solutions, through agents like myself. Jamaal worked at the time on the solution distributor side. We're going to hear all about his career, what he's done, how he's got there. But I'm going to give him the subtitle of P.T. Barnum as well, because
wow.
he was leading the circus, as they say. And anywhere I am, there's a damn circus. So, Jamaal, for the audience, please introduce yourself and tell folks what you're doing.
Well, great. Thanks a lot, Vic, for the intro. My name is Jamaal Savwoir. My middle name is Davidson. Not too many people know about that, but my dad's name is David. My grandfather's middle name was Davidson. So it's a great name, great way to carry on the name and things like that. So Jamaal
Indeed.
Davidson Savwoir. I'm a newly minted head of UCXM partner engagement at a company called Nextiva, one of those suppliers in this channel ecosystem and across the technology services distributor, technology services broker space, working with technology advisors, consultants, people that put technology solutions in front of customers. And that's my current new role. And as Vic mentioned, we've known each other for a while. And when that interesting P.T. Barnum comment comes across, that was during my time as a resident master of ceremonies, among other titles, at a little company called Intelisys, which I still admire today.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, for those on the episode, I didn't know Jamaal landed this new gig, and I'm grinning ear to ear because not a week and a half ago that I hosted dinner with about 5 different customers that Nextiva helped sponsor, and I sat next to your co-founder Tracy all night long, and we caught up. It was a great time. He's an amazing guy. I love Nextiva, great company. Free press here, by the way. Free props for Nextiva. Great team, great product and platform, growing, and I am excited that you landed there. Again, I usually have the benefit of knowing a little something about people that come on these shows. And, without the jokes and without the fanfare, when I met Jamaal, he had a marketing and a leadership role and development role at Intelisys. But when the president came on and looked at Jamaal and said, hey, this is a guy who could help me rally the troops. This is a guy who can bring some flair to the presentation, can bring some fun to the organization, and fun doesn't need to be void of effectiveness, right? So I picked up on a couple of things from you, Jamaal. I said, here's a guy who's got great confidence. Here's a guy who almost needs no introduction, super personable, comfortable in his own shoes or in his own skin, whatever, I've heard both said in the past. And I know that comes from somewhere. That it might not have always been like that. It might be something you've had to develop, because the confidence, not arrogance, this man is not arrogant. He's just very confident, you see, he's kind of smirking, he's smiling. It's hard for him to hold back his smiles because every time I see him, he's got a giant smile on his face. Where'd that all come from? Like, was this a journey for you? Did a light bulb come on at some point in your life? Take us back. Let's get to the roots of this, man.
I would say that particular part of my light bulb came on and started to shine and, kind of warm up and, get a couple of watts in high school for me. I went to a high school in New Orleans, Louisiana called Ben Franklin High School. And as I was going into high school, out of middle school, I had a really bad car accident, got hit by a car on a bicycle and broke my leg, was in a cast from my hip to my toes for quite a while. Going into high school, I wanted to be well-liked. I wanted to have friends. I wanted to be, kind of popular. I wanted all those things, and I wanted to do sports. But due to the severe nature of my injury and the fact that my mom at the time was a pharmacist in a hospital, and she had to kind of go through this whole journey with me of getting back to where I could walk and all those sorts of things. I got a hard no when I even mentioned the idea of playing football. So it was like, in that all turned into me being involved in track and cross country long distance. So she allowed me to do individual sports. Thankfully, I recovered from my injury to the point where I could still run. I could do all those things, but contact sport was just, out of the question. So I got into individual sports, but also the high school I was at had this really neat thing called FTV. We were the Ben Franklin Falcons, so we had Falcon television. And this is
it.
This is, very late 80s, very early 90s, VCR camcorders. We had a studio in the high school. We had this thing called a video toaster. We were editing our own, remote shots from the bowling alley. I was the guy, the remote reporter in the bowling alley with the VCR on my shoulder.
I love it.
Hamming it up with the high school students, having a great time. And we did a whole thing that was kind of like Saturday Night Live weekend update. It was just a blast. So that's really the time when I kind of developed some level of showmanship. But it all came out of the fact that growing up in New Orleans, I loved the idea of having a good time. There was never reason not to have a party for something. Hurricane party, school is closed party, party after the football game, Mardi Gras with my family on, not people think Mardi Gras is all this downtown Bourbon Street shenanigans. There's some of that, but when you go up there, it's very family oriented, but it's so much about having a good time and sharing that with people, being able to see smiles on people's faces, being able to be, kind of life of the party, and then translating that into, wow, I'm going to learn some technical skills here too. I'm going to learn how to hold that camcorder. I'm going to learn how to edit that video. I'm going to learn how to speak into that microphone. I'm going to learn how to, what are the topics that are going to engage my audience, that kind of thing. So that was really sort of that part of the light bulb coming on and me getting comfortable, being in front of people. I did a little student government stuff. I kind of, that gave me the opportunity to kind of go between all the different cliques. You've got your jocks and you've got your nerds, and, at a magnet high school, even the jocks are nerds,
So funny, man.
You got your music kids, you got your theater kids, you got your, but that was really a place where I developed some of that, comfortable feeling around people, around being in front of people, telling the story, being engaging, just enjoying that type of interaction with folks.
I found myself in a very similar spot in high school, but it wasn't because of a VHS tape loaded, recorder on my shoulder, but there were microphones involved. And if you look at the guitars on the wall behind me, I had a high school garage band and we played the parties.
You got to, man.
We played the parties, right? And so, and it started early because when it was just me on guitar and my friend Kenny, who was a drummer, we just started the whole thing. People like, dude, you guys are jamming, man. You gotta come play the party. All the cliques, all the different groups were at the party. The
That's right.
jocks. Back in my day, they called them the burnouts. The jocks, the burnouts. The band people. I'll leave out what they were called.
This is a family show, right?
It wasn't kind. All these groups, but we were the nucleus. We were the nucleus. And, for the first, it's funny. The first gigs were just me on guitar and my friend Ken. This was 8th grade, by the way. We were early.
Wow.
And they were like, you guys got to get a singer. I'm like, well, I sing. Well, we need a PA. Nobody's got money for a PA, right? So as we started adding other people in the band and we all chipped in, we got a PA. Then the gigs started getting real. But I can relate to you doing something that is neutral on all playing fields, right? You're collecting, you're interviewing, you're creating, what do they call them, reels today, but you're doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's a sporting event, party, track and field, football, the band marching down. If all of a sudden somebody's streaking across the quad, you're getting on tape, oh man, that had to be a lot of fun. But now I understand where this all started to develop. You were down, you were in the middle lane, and you had to see all the traffic on both sides.
And I like the way you say, that middle lane, because, I truly enjoy finding the common ground, finding ways to bring people together. Everybody's got opinions. They're always, sometimes they're wildly different, but if, in a social setting, you're looking to create common ground because you want that community, you want some camaraderie, you want to have a good conversation. So you find the middle ground. In a business context, you're looking for a way to drive things forward. You're looking for the progression of opportunities. You're looking to accelerate things, and it has to be about bringing people together. So
100%.
It's important to both socially, professionally, personally, to find the middle ground, find the common ground, and bring some energy to it. People should be enthusiastic about finding that common ground and being able to communicate with their fellow man, fellow woman, fellow person, and figure out, hey, what are we doing together? I like togetherness.
It's so important. And Jamaal, I'm going to sidetrack us here for a second because you hit a topic I thought we'd probably get into, but maybe not until we warmed up about 45 minutes. But here we are. I say this with the utmost respect to all of my customers. I'd be nowhere without them. The thing that I try to bring to my customer base is that specific bringing people in, bringing them together, because a lot of times you come into organizations through a particular lane. Let's say it is a telephony project or a contact center project. You're at Nextiva now. So people could come in from technology. They can come in from the contact center. Let's say you're a contact center administrator. You can come in from the line of business. You're an operator. You might be working for the procurement office. You might be working in operations looking for efficiencies that somehow you feel like are not getting squeezed out enough. So no matter where people are coming from, you can't work in that silo.
No.
You have to say, okay, hey, that's great. Nice that we met you.
Yeah.
You're going to have some other stakeholders here. Let's bring in vendor management early and often. Let's bring in, if you're not in technology, let's get technology people. But it's, the bigger the company, the more silos there are, it becomes very, very hard to do that. But for guys like you and me, we're going to die trying. And if anybody's listening, here's nugget number one at 13 minutes and 20 seconds. if you're inside of an opportunity and you're in sales or no matter where you are, or even if you're internal, trying to get a consensus to move a project forward to make the business better, you've got to bring people in rather than do it in a vacuum somewhere.
100%.
Your thoughts?
100%. I'm so glad that, there's a lot of, I think this is probably going to happen throughout this conversation, but there are things that happen. You talk a little bit about a topic and you hit a keyword that just triggers something that makes me think. And when you said silos, I distinctly remember, so you met me as through the Intellisys role that I had.
Yeah.
And immediately prior to Intellisys, I was at a company called 8x8. 8x8, maybe known to many as a UCaaS company or a CCaaS company or an XCaaS company, as we tried different brandings on our solutions over the years. But I distinctly remember hosting a training with the team that I was running at the time, a team of solution engineers. So my background in the channel is what's really started in the technology side, and I've transitioned into sales and marketing and presentations and all those sorts of things. But when I held this team meeting, the main thing that I focused on were two things. It was breaking down silos, and it was framing conversations, because you've worked with solution engineers and salespeople across lots of different technology segments, whether it's telephony, communications, data center, security, whatever, what have you. And I'm sure you run across different types of solution engineers that some of them have a little S and a big E. They're all speeds and feeds, all ones and zeros. Enjoy talking over people's heads when you're like, hey guys, like that's truly not what we're here for. But that's how they do it. Some of them can be trained otherwise, some of them can't. And then you have some that are big S little E. They're selling and sometimes overselling and have the thinnest possible engineering capability in their skill set, but they still have the title. And when I talk to my team about those two things, breaking down the silos and framing the conversations, the silo part was, if you're in a role in a sales team and you're doing team selling, you can't work with silos. You have to kind of know what's happening before the project gets to you, or the item gets to you, or the question gets to you, and you have to know where it's going after. You really have to be sort
100%.
of you have to have the visibility and the thoughtfulness to say, hey, if I know where it came from, I know where to go and source the piece of information I need is going to help it move forward. And if I'm going to hand it off to somebody, I need to make sure I include all this information and present it in a meaningful way so that it can continue after I'm done with it. So that breaking down silos thing is just key to success. All the time that I've been part of selling, it's been part of team selling. I didn't have a selling career or a selling adjacency where everything was on me. It was always a team selling thing, and teams have to function, and that's why silos never really work, in my opinion. And then the thing about framing the conversations was really to help both myself and my team think about communication skills, think about not only how you answer questions, but how you ask questions. So I distinctly remember putting those slides together and finding a picture of a grain silo from a farm to try to get the point across. Like, we need to cut these down. Like, we need to have a better way of communicating where we're not in a silo and we're not treating the customer like they're in a silo and treating the salespeople like they're in a silo. We have to have communication that's effective.
I'll tell you what, we could do an entire episode on this topic, and it's so valuable and important. And it's invaluable and important not only from a sales perspective, but even if you work inside of a company and you're out seeking a solution, you have to know how to bring people together. And if you're interested, because there's so much more I want to get to here, I don't want to steal this whole episode. I want this more to be about you than a topic. I'd love to have you back in the new year for a repeat where we can only talk about this topic. And I know we can go on for a long time about it.
Yeah.
We can do some homework on it. But let's talk about, I always am interested where people came from. Quick question. Graduate high school?
Yes.
All right. Congratulations. Excellent. Did you go to college?
I did go to college.
Excellent. Did you graduate from college?
I did not graduate college.
Another thing you and I have in common. Okay. And I
Yep.
could,
Yep.
we can have a whole other episode on that. But tell me what happened. Talk to me about that path, because out there right
Yeah,
now,
man.
there are people wondering, what's my path going to look like if I don't go, if I do go and drop out, or if I finish.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
interested in your perspective. How'd that go for you?
Yeah. I would say that, you know, I can shorten it down to a couple of things. I majored in the minors.
Okay.
I I was very, very excited about getting away from home when I graduated high school.
Okay.
I had done pretty well in high school. I had, I'd been awarded an academic scholarship uh,
Wow.
to an institution called Florida A&M University, Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, Tallahassee,
Yeah.
Florida. The Rattlers, the Marching 100, beautiful school, wonderful culture. Um, Great opportunity for me because the scholarship program that I was awarded got me an internship right out of high school. So I left high
Wow.
school and went to a summer job at a Department of Energy laboratory in California before I took my first college class. So
Amazing.
that was amazing. However, at my particular state of maturity at the time, I got to college and I had I'd say, low interest in completing schoolwork,
Okay.
and I had more interest in the extracurricular activities that were available to me,
Very
being away
common.
from home. So I was there for 2 years. I did 2 summer internships at Lawrence Livermore National Lab in California. I did
Okay.
a 6-month engineering co-op at General Motors in Ohio, and that was the end of my college career. I ended up back in New Orleans and just went to work.
What was your first job?
My first job in that era was working at a company called Treasure Chest Computers. So
Okay.
if you think, getting a Wayback Machine, it's
Yeah.
1994, 95,
You're building
and
PCs? What were you
I
doing?
am I am working at a company that sells mail order computer parts.
Oh,
So
parts. Okay.
well, I think we had some whole computers too, but it's mostly what I remember is Computer Shopper magazine, about
Yeah.
this thick, looked like a phone book. Remember what that?
Okay.
A phone
Yeah.
book is a book of phone numbers.
I
Um, so
got Siri for that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Computer Shopper magazine. Think of like your auntie, your grandmother
Yeah.
buying a computer component for some kid who wants to, you know, write the next version of Legend of Zelda or something like that, right? This
Yeah.
is ancient times. Um,
Motherboards,
yeah,
Ethernet
motherboards,
cards,
audio
CPUs.
cards,
Yep.
RAM,
Yeah.
hard cards, 40
Yeah.
megabyte hard cards for your compact portable computer. So
Yeah. So you were selling parts. That's
I was,
cool though. I mean, that's where it was in the mid 90s.
but I was a technician. I was the guy on the end of the phone when you called in and you slapped the audio card in the motherboard and you couldn't get any sound out of it. So that's where I learned patience.
Patience.
I learned
Drivers.
patience, and I
Yeah.
learned how to support people over the phone that I couldn't see what they were doing. They couldn't,
Yeah.
this was phone tech support for computer parts, hardware.
Okay,
Like,
ladies and gentlemen, here's what ma'am, sir, let's make sure everything's off. Can you click start, please? Start what?
yep, yep.
Start what? You know how many
Move that
times I've
jumper
heard that?
from J1 to J2.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Oh, now we got a problem.
yes.
All right. How long did
So,
you do
so
that
yeah.
for?
Oh man. Maybe about a year,
Okay.
or so. And then, my father, at the time had moved back to New Orleans and was working for a federal contractor that was contracted to the Naval Reserve. There's a large
Okay.
Naval Reserve base in New Orleans, and he recommended me for a job there. So I moved from phone computer tech support into on-site, uh, break fix IT department for
Yeah.
federal government. So it was
Okay.
was another interesting career move. You know, where this is again getting the technology wayback machine. This is going from thick net to thin net to Ethernet. This is like
Yeah.
we're doing like cabling. I still remember the color sequence to put an RJ45 on a end of a piece of Ethernet cord. This is before wireless networking.
Yeah.
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 So so
Jamal,
I did all that.
I'm going to tell you a story and then subsequently tell it to 18,000 subscribers. It's embarrassing, but I got to tell it. I got to tell it. Never been told before in public. I think my wife and a few people know, but now the world will know. One of my first jobs in technology was working at a company. It was a mortgage company, and my wife was an underwriter there. The company was very small. I was the number 2 IT person hired at this company. The short story is, or the long story is we wound up growing that to 3,000 people, and I became the CIO of this company, which was just an incredible journey. But the short story, the story I want to tell is talk about desktop support. So we were a Windows shop. So we went from a DOS shop running Novell menus to a Windows shop, Windows 3.1.1 workstation. And we were migrating to Windows 95. And I used to show up at work, and I had a rule that I made for myself. If you had a computer problem and I couldn't fix it at your desk very quickly, I'd go get a spare computer out of the back. I'd put it on your desktop, right? And then I'd struggle not in front of you. I'd do it in the shop, right? And so this particular person was the marketing person and didn't have a standard build. God, this is so embarrassing. And so it was hard for me to do that because Photoshop, Illustrator, Publisher, like all these extra apps I had to load. And so I said, you know what, let me go load all what are the apps you need to work on today? I need these 2 apps. Let me go load them on another PC. I'll come back, I'll swap it, then we'll deal with it. If it's a little slow today, bear with me. I take the thing away, and I come back, and it's right before lunch. And I said, I fixed it. It's done. I'm going to swap the cables. I'm going to put this tower back in under. And I was pushing. She's sitting in her chair at a desk like I'm sitting here. I'm under the desk. Okay. And I go to give that a go heave-ho on the carpet. And I put my weight behind it. And it digs into the carpet. And I take that PC in the gut. And all you hear come out of the other side is, dude, I was like, and she's sitting there, she heard it. She heard it. And I just was like, I wanted to crawl up and die. I just was like,
oh man.
It's just like, it was my most embarrassing desktop support moment ever. To her credit, she had grace. She kind of looked to the side and just was like, okay, thank you very much, Rick. And I couldn't look her in the eye for about 2 months.
Oh man. You
Dude,
don't even know what they called you on the message board.
It was horrible. There were no message boards back then. It was literally 1996. So, oh my gosh, I'm telling you, man, I'm telling you.
That's hilarious.
That's hilarious. So,
but yeah,
now you're
that's the gig, man.
guy.
Yeah, desktop support. You're the rear admiral's printer's out on the fritz. You got to drive across the base and go, put in a new printer for Rear Admiral Johnson or whoever, and like,
yeah.
you're on call, you're, doing stuff. And what kind of springboarded me from, tech support, sysadmin, break fix into more, sort of network design, network administration, sort of the career path. Cause at that point, I just needed a job. Right. So I wasn't thinking like career path. What am I going to do? How do I advance my career? But
making that money.
I was a reliable, technician. I was somebody that they could trust in front of the customer. I was, they need a high profile customer. Right. And so, I had the opportunity to move into a system administration role because the company was the organization was changing from the Novell network and all this kind of stuff, and they brought in a software package called Computer Associates Unicenter TNG. So that got me kind of out of the break fix, on-call tech role into more of a system administrator role.
Mm-hmm.
And I was part of the project team. They got this software application installed, set up, configured. The plan was this was a personnel system that the Naval Reserve was implementing, and it had a lot of servers, a lot of networks and things like that. And this CA Unicenter was a monitoring application that could make sure all that stuff was up and running. And
Cool.
that was pretty cool, because as that project wrapped up, I was then recommended to become a solution consultant with Computer Associates. So I kind of
Nice.
springboarded from that early, technician break fix, kind of like, hourly wage kind of a tech guy, into
Yeah.
something that had a salary component to it, sales
Nice.
component to it, much more of a high level role. So that was
So
a
now you're working for
great place
Computer
to go.
Associates.
hmm
How long do you work at Computer Associates?
5 years, from 2000 to
Nice.
2005. Yeah, it was
Okay.
a great ride. That was the early days of it was some interesting parts of that journey were being on a team that was selling to a customer that I knew nothing about. I mean, this product and this software product was sold like hardware. It was
Oh, really?
multi-million-dollar contracts.
Okay.
It wasn't like SaaS today where you pay, it's OpEx. This is a CapEx. This is a capital expense.
Yep.
Companies are investing, a couple $1 million in a software package that then some system integrator is going to go and implement for them and maintain. And you pay a software maintenance fee because you want the
Yep.
upgrade next year. You don't want to have to pay for it
Yep.
all over again, right? So this is just mind-boggling how that whole journey
A
has
million,
progressed.
20% a year.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
That's right. And
Yep.
think about this: long sales cycles, right? So it wasn't. I didn't get into a technology role in a professional career where I ever had that experience of the transactional sale.
Yep.
I came at it from the enterprise side. So I learned about, hey, we got to go do another demo. We got to build it. We got to build a better demo. We got to build a demo for these stakeholders. We have to, go to this meeting and gather all this input from all these different people. Oh,
Yeah.
solution is it's not just the server monitoring. Now we're going to add in desktop monitoring and network monitoring and
Mm-hmm.
backup. So it was complex. It was solution selling. It was long sales cycles. But the core of it was still communication. It was still
Yeah. It was enterprise.
understanding requirements and delivering the best solution. And my role on that sales team, again, in this team selling environment, was to make sure that I was doing the technical things that advance the sale, not just for the sake of technology, right? Nobody really cared
Yeah.
how many DVDs the thing was on to install it. They wanted to know, like, okay, well, when it's implemented right, what is it going to do? Is it going to solve my
Absolutely.
business problem? So
Yeah.
that was a pretty cool move for me to learn more, use the skills I already had, use what I developed, but really learn a lot about that longer sales cycle, selling to enterprises, understanding how to communicate better with different stakeholders and things like that.
Pretty interesting up to this point. Extracurricular at the college, which is good.
Yeah.
Cool job, dealing with customers and in hardware support. So you're right in line of fire.
Yeah.
Start what? Jumper 1, jumper 2. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
sure, some of it was cool. You got people on there that knew what they were doing, and others that shouldn't have bought the part, right? Now
Exactly.
you're working for the government, so you're starting to get a little bit of a lesson in bureaucracy, but you're also, you've got high touch, high communication, another whole level of communication and responsiveness that's coming in. Fantastic. Introduction to new technologies and new skills, which is pretty amazing. You roll that into a Computer Associates gig, man, and now you are learning the ways of the enterprise. Because all of what you described is not only the old software stack, but it really is current state enterprise. If you're in the channel
Definitely.
working with a big company, it is not unlike it to be a 12 to 14 month sales cycle. It's Very, very difficult, which is why SMB, small and medium-sized businesses, is a nice win for most. The deal sizes aren't big, and you don't get to pound the ROI chest as big, but on a percentage basis you can. But I like solving big problems, and I tend to attract myself to the enterprises that are trying to solve big problems. But it comes with needing to know that expertise, having that patience, flying out to the client site, doing a number of demos, customizing, including everybody, bringing it all the way back around, which is where we started. So it's an amazing set collection of skills and learning, and I could see where it goes. So now 5 years is up at Computer Associates. What happened? This is 2005 now.
2005. I went through Hurricane Katrina, and so I was living in New Orleans at the time.
How bad was it for you?
Well, I would say that it wasn't easy, but it wasn't devastating.
Okay.
It was definitely a time of exercising resilience, supporting the people around me, and doing what I could to help other people. But the reason why I made that move away from Computer Associates was that was a life on the road, and many people in the channel live on the road. Many people in other types of sales jobs live on the road, and with the way things were going at the time, with that role that I had, I didn't have a set schedule. I didn't have like, okay, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be home for a week, I'm going to be there. It was just kind of like, it was very haphazard. It was just like wherever you're kind of like on call. Where you need me to show up? What's the project? Who's the customer? What demo we're building? Which laptop do I need? It was a very kind of on the fly. And a gentleman I knew from Computer Associates was starting up a little voice over IP company in Sarasota, Florida. And I think somewhere along the way, you kind of figure out who your mentors are, or who can you ask about these kind of important decisions in life. And
yeah, sure thing.
I have an uncle that was my Uncle Earl, married to my dad's sister, and I knew he had a long history in corporate jobs, and I was at the time having a family, thinking about making a move to a startup company, and like, yeah, but it was an opportunity to like in my life at the time, it's an opportunity for me to work where I live for a change, because up until that point, everywhere that I was working was not where I lived. There was always this project over there or that project over there, or what time I have to be at the airport, and that kind of thing. So talked to my Uncle Earl, kind of let him know what the opportunity looked like with this startup company, with this brand new thing called Voice over IP, which I'd only barely heard about at CA because it was on network. It was like companies were kind of converting their digital voice PBX systems to some type of voice over IP with these IP phones. But I had no concept of what it meant to do something like that across the internet, with replacing phone service and all that kind of stuff. But it seemed like an up and coming trend. It seemed like an opportunity. It seemed like there weren't a lot of people in the space. Looked like a good thing to do. And I went from CA, living in Houston, still trying to put my house back together in New Orleans, and jumped over to Sarasota, Florida to work at a little startup company called Star to Star Communications.
Star to Star.
Yeah.
No kidding. I didn't know you were there.
Yeah.
I was, it's funny, and we're probably jumping ahead a little bit, but when I was at JP Morgan Chase, I wanted to set up a little home office. I've got a room here, do it, but I'd never really worked from home. Just you didn't do it up and like you showed up at work. This was 2008 maybe. And I wanted to get a phone line put in, and I bought consumer direct off the internet, an 8x8 phone. I was an 8x8 customer. It might have been 30-something bucks a month. Phone came in, plugged it into the Ethernet switch, and freaking worked. I mean, it was just like went over the internet. It was clear. It wasn't choppy.
Yeah.
This is 08,
Yeah. Yeah.
And for one guy, and for me being here, it was fine. It worked. But it's funny. I thought, you're about to tell us this journey, and this is why I'm sort of setting this up for you. When UCAS started becoming very mainstream, bad networks started getting more robust. Internet bandwidth started becoming more robust. People's home networks were getting better and better. The early resistance in UCAS telephony platforms was great because of the experiences people were having with VoIP over the internet, right? Not just over IP, but voice over IP internet.
Yeah.
In the early days of UCAS. So now it sounds like you're there.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? You're
And
there. So
and
what was that journey like, man?
it was interesting because it was one of those things where you actually, start in the garage. So
Okay.
I jumped into this organization. It was less than 20 people, might have been probably less than 10 people when I joined up.
Wow.
And really bright people that were building the platform, just really smart people, and really passionate about the ability to take something. At the time, it was built on an open source platform, but we built all of the code around it to, create things like a customer portal or a billing system, or like it was all, hammering the keyboard, man, figuring it out as you went along. Really, really interesting journey there. And what I was really brought in to do was to take my knowledge and expertise around systems monitoring and systems management and alerting and that sort of thing, and to wrap some sort of a safety net or give customers confidence that, hey, we know that this thing is working and we can tell you when it's not working, and we
Nice.
can reliably deliver this service. So that was really my role. We thought we could take some of what we did at Computer Associates and kind of, implement it on top of this thing we were building at Star to Star. But after a couple of development cycles of trying to make that work and looking at some of the ways that the technology that we wanted to use is really built for local area networks, we needed something that was worked over the internet. I just had to roll up my sleeves and figure out. I learned Linux. I learned some scripting. I talked to other people that knew more than me. Worked
Yep.
with a few people internally, a few people externally, and we built something that we could, reliably claim that, hey, when your system is online, we know it. When your system is offline, we can alert you. We can monitor down to this level of component, what's going on. We can do dashboards, so we had, that was really it was fun to build something from scratch, and to learn from people smarter than me, and just kind of figure out how to get that off the ground. So that I just felt over the course of 9 years, kind of transitioning from a sort of a QA role, quality assurance role, into you know being the lead solution engineer when we started doing customer facing stuff and actually had customers,
Right.
all the way to, as I transitioned out of Star to Star, my last title there was a technical evangelist. So it was a fun journey. Still keep in touch with a lot of great people that were there, and just a fun ride.
So you were there through 2014, if my math is correct. Is that right?
From 2006 to about 2015. Yeah.
15. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice. So
Mm-hmm.
cool. Well,
Yep.
now there's some gas in the engine.
Yeah.
And where'd you go after Star to Star?
So from there, I went to 8x8.
You did. You were
Yeah.
at by that
Yeah.
year. I didn't
Yeah.
know that you were there in 15.
Yep.
What was your
Yep.
first role at 8x8?
My first role at 8x8, I kind of gotten into where I wanted to be more in. I think my desire at the time was to be more aligned with sales. I had this
Okay.
kind of like, not a nebulous role, but it was just hard to tie what I did to revenue.
Okay.
and I really wanted the opportunity to say, okay, like, the world is advanced. I had almost no contact center experience at that point.
Okay.
But one of the things I admired about 8x8 at the time was they had a strong investment in tying together unified communications and contact center.
Yep.
And I thought that was a great way for me to kind of take what I knew. Again, we at Start, we had built a little, kind of a call center. It wasn't omni-channel by any means, but
Hmm.
it was functional. It handled call queuing and routing, and we had built custom dashboards for one customer and done some really cool stuff. But I could see that was a springboard into other types of opportunities. Get out of just the phone system stuff. There were a lot of competitors in the space at the time. There were a lot of expectations of what the phone system had to do for it to be competitive. Things like CRM integration, all this cool stuff that
Yeah.
we just hadn't really kept up. But when I looked at 8x8 and this opportunity for UC and CC to kind of be together, I said, okay, that's an interesting place to go. So I started out there as a regional solution engineer.
Okay.
Worked some with direct, some with channel. Um, I had an opportunity to work internationally with 8x8. So again, kind of getting out of uh, get into a larger global opportunity there. Ended up working the channel program in Australia, New Zealand, really helping establish 8x8's channel program in those regions. So went from local kind of solution engineer to channel in Australia, New Zealand, and some of Canada and things like that. And then after that tour of duty, I moved into a management role in solution engineering at 8x8.
That's nice. What year did JD join 8x8?
JD, let's see, probably the 19. It must have been 2018, 2019, because I had seen at least 4 iterations of 8x8's channel program while
Yeah,
I was
sure.
there. It was a continuous process improvement.
Yeah, understood.
Trying to get it right, trying to dial it in, trying to make sure we were delivering for partners. And, a lot of people had a lot of opinions on that. But when JD came in, it was a definite, high point in terms of really putting some juice to the channel program and engaging with partners in a way that we hadn't seen before at 8x8. It was a great expansion of what we were doing.
That's when I met you. That's when I first met you at 8x8 in the channel program.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so now it's 19. So you joined there in 15, you've expanded some, solution engineering and global channel roles, New Zealand, Australia. So now you're back in the States. JD was he the president of the company at the time?
No,
Or
he was
channel chief?
he came in. There was an interesting kind of double move because
Okay.
our CEO brought in a couple of people from CenturyLink, and then one of those guys didn't stick around. So JD came in with the gentleman, and then as he exited, JD got elevated to that role of channel chief.
Channel chief. Got it.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. When did you start working with John when I first met you?
I was there when you got there, man. I was doing the channel thing. I don't know if you know
Got it.
Michelle Bonfontaine.
I
Um,
don't.
yeah, she's a long time 8x8 person, and she was when I thought of, she was kind of the most steady person in the 8x8 channel program as I saw different iterations of it to the time I was there. But when JD came on board, he brought energy, he brought a team, he brought a work ethic, he brought all kinds of great things that just kind of elevated our position in the
Nice.
channel at the time. So it was great because when I mentioned I moved from that Australia New Zealand role, kind of came back to the States and had a management role. I had 4 different solution engineering teams that rolled up to me because
Got it.
8x8 was
Okay.
segmented in mid-market, enterprise. We had some people that were account managers that were doing retention and upsell. They had a couple of SEs dedicated to them. And then we had a channel team. And after doing that for a while and seeing what JD's kind of channel reimagined, ethos brought to the table, I knew that that's where I wanted to be. So I lobbied for and moved myself into a role where I just had channel.
Right.
I gave the rest of it to
Gotcha.
to those other folks, and I was confident that taking the right message, the right story, um, engagement level to partners would be the best thing to do. I'd rather work with partners and enable them than to be on back-to-back demos to customers,
Yeah.
repeating the same thing over and over again. There's ways to do that and do it very
Yeah.
well, but for me, I wanted to be out with the partners. I wanted to be engaging with folks that wanted to figure out, hey man, what does this look like? Why should I sell this? What is it going to do for my
Yeah.
customer? What is it going to do for me as a business owner? That to me was a better conversation, more engaging, more beneficial, yielded better benefits than doing the direct.
Awesome. Well, you're a people guy first and foremost, so I could see why that would be a natural affinity for you because, I think that's where the lamps get turned up to 1,000 watts. When I see you engaging there, and I didn't know about your customer service and technical backgrounds and all of these things. Been sort of cool to discover, but I see how all the pieces of the parts have come together. So now you leave 8x8. JD goes to Intelisys. I imagine he came after you pretty hard and recruited you.
Yeah, that was I was there have been some the thing about organizations, man, is you've seen this and you've probably been a part of them. Change happens, and sometimes those changes are great. Sometimes they're mediocre. But I think as individuals, we kind of have to look around and say, hey, is this change good for me?
Yeah.
And there were some things that I wanted to do differently than one of the regimes that came in. And when JD found that role at Intelisys, and I had a couple of conversations with him. Intelisys is an organization I admired for a long time and still do. And that was an opportunity I couldn't pass up.
Yeah, I thought you were great.
I
in that
really
role,
wanted to be there.
Yeah, I could tell. I could tell you really wanted to be there. You were great in the role that they had you in. You were a 10 out of 10. I got to tell you that. Jamaal brought a sense of sincerity and fun and camaraderie back to what was explained to me had existed long before, but where there was a void. And you were just starting to get it cooking, man. You really were.
It was a good run, man.
I applaud you for that. It was super cool. What was your experience at Intelisys like? What'd you learn there, and what'd you take away from that experience?
Yeah, like people that are into vinyl are gonna think I sound like a broken record, man. But it's the people for me,
Yeah.
So, yeah, there were a couple of unique, interesting things about the role for me. I went into that role with a pretty clear kind of like vision of like, okay, great, I'm gonna do these three things. I'm gonna do these three things. I'm gonna line it up. I know who I have to work with internally. I already knew who. Well, I had an idea in my head of who were in which places, which pieces I needed to pull together to drive the strategy that I had in my head. But when I got there, a few things were different. The sort of infrastructure around marketing events that I was used to as a supplier when I worked with Intelisys had changed. There were some different people there. There were some different philosophies there. They were trying to figure some things out. So it wasn't as packaged as I thought it was when I got there.
Okay.
There were some changes going on in the kind of channel management arena. There were lots of, you have a view of what an organization looks like from the outside, but then you get inside and you're like, oh, okay.
Only all the time. Yeah.
They're like,
things crash.
Like, hey,
Yeah.
what is that? So again, I had a very clear idea of what I wanted to do, but I was presented with an opportunity. I ended up not only kind of being the sort of architect and delivery engine around what I called advanced solutions education. You're familiar with the luminaries like Andrew Pryfogle and all the solution engineering team at Intelisys, and the way they packaged their events and the way they packaged up how they leveraged all the messaging around technology opportunities for partners. It was a great run of really high profile things that attracted partners to that program. that I thought I had an opportunity to kind of reimagine and deliver in a new way. And I also ended up it, incorporating, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
the entire marketing team. So I don't have
Inheriting.
inheriting. That's a
Yeah.
great one. That's a great one.
Yeah. Okay.
So as you know, not only do I not have an engineering degree from a college or university, I also do not have a marketing degree from a college or university. But
My last corporate role, I was the chief information officer, and they were going through some struggles in marketing, and president of the company knocks on my door and goes, "Hey, we think you can run marketing." And I go, "I don't want to run marketing. I don't want to give up tech." "Oh, no, 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 no. We're going to make you the chief marketing and technology officer. You're going to run them both." And I said, "Oh, okay. Yeah, you're super creative, and we know you have a knack for putting the right people together, and you're just going to go do that." And so, much like you, I inherited an entire market. I loved it, though, by the way.
I loved it too, man. I loved
I
it.
loved it. I dug in, man. I got knee deep in it. And fortunately, I had some really strong people in IT, and I pulled them all together and said, "You guys are going to have to make a lot more decisions without me. I'm going to be focused at 80% of my time over here.
Yeah.
Come knock on my door if you need anything for the next year." And it was cool. It was very cool. So now you inherit the marketing.
Inherit the marketing,
Okay.
man. And
Yeah.
that was it was just because I had so much admiration for the organization, and because I love the people so much, it wasn't something I looked at as a burden. I looked at it as an opportunity. And that's just I kind of find ways to approach challenges that way, like, hey,
Yeah.
here's an opportunity. I'm you know optimistic and positive to a fault sometimes, but that's just the way I roll, man. That's the way I get through life. So so when those things come at me, I figure out, hey, what I need to do first. The first thing I had to do, of course, was put my arms around the people. So I
Yep.
found ways to, hey, let's bring everybody in. Again, I'm coming in this role as JD and other people at Intellis that decide to like cancel Channel Connect, man. So there's
I remember
a
that.
lot of things that were just not what you would expect to be walking into, and a lot of pieces and parts to figure out. But to me, it really, focusing on the people was an easy thing for me. So figuring out how to, hey, what do we have here? What are the functional parts of this organization? What does the alignment look like? Are we really built to deliver what we need to deliver?
Yeah.
Um, and just really, really, having a point of view, trusting the people that had leadership roles, explaining to them what changes I expected and how I wanted things to function, and delivering results were the key things to making that work. And turned out to be a lot of fun, man. You're part of an elite group of partners called Club TPC.
Yeah.
Top performing champions was something that I got to be personally involved with. I got to sit down face to face with a lot of these people I admired from seeing them across stages at intelligence events for years, and really just further invest in those relationships and figure out how to make the organization deliver better results for the people that got us where we were. So that was a lot of fun, and just really, really, really a great opportunity.
When you moved on from that role, I had a conversation with a number of people, and I told them I thought it was a big loss. But I never begrudge a person for moving their life in a direction they feel like is the right place to be for themselves and their family. Certainly, if I've done that a number of times in my career, it's never personal,
Yep. Yep.
right? And if it is, it doesn't even have to be.
Yeah.
It's like, you want to do a certain thing, you want to bring a certain value in a certain place, and you try to find the best places that where you can deliver the best value. So you moved on from there.
Yep.
Where'd you go?
So this is an interesting chapter, because I would say up to this point, I had made moves, sometimes with great counsel, sometimes just with a gut feeling, sometimes sometimes with a long decision window, sometimes with a really short decision window. But I had made those moves based on whatever counsel I gathered at the time, and they had worked out. So this next
Yeah.
little chapter,
Yeah.
I made a move that didn't quite work out the way I expected. So I went from Intellisys to a company that branded on the outside, it was Bridgepoint CX.
Yeah.
Bridgepoint is an amazing organization. Have nothing but admiration for the founders, Scott Evers, Brian Miller. They have a great team around them.
Yeah.
And they acquired a company called PPT Solutions. And that's the part of the organization that I joined. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's wild, man.
It's a Mac thing.
So I after several different, interesting things happening in Intellisys and working with the ScanSource team, things like that. I saw what looked like a great opportunity with Bridgepoint CX. And I'll tell you a couple of reasons why I looked at that as a great opportunity. One, my sort of technical career and my sales career centered around unified communications, contact center, customer experience. But it always been in the technology space. What I liked that was unique about Bridgepoint CX PPT Solutions was it was the opportunity to look at everything that revolved around the technology. PPT stood for People Process Technology.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't work in a call center. I didn't, I knew call center supervisors. I had a couple of different sort of auxiliary attachments and information about how they worked. I had solved some really neat technical problems for call centers and things like that. But
you even played a manager on TV, from what I understand.
Played a manager on TV.
Yeah.
But really diving deep into consulting and implementation, managed services, professional services, that sort of thing, seemed like a great way to go up market and deal with enterprise customers and do some really cool stuff there. And I'll say one thing that's very unique about that solution set is the opportunity that most agents, most partners, most consultants in our space miss is the people component of contact centers. When you think about the opportunity to connect those critical services to the right people at the right time in terms of outsourcing. So business process outsourcing being a big hole in the strategy of most people that are trying to sell customer experience solutions. They lean technology heavy, sell some seats, sell some AI, sell some of this, but leave that people part out of it. So the great organization, wonderful people, really smart in terms of the delivery of those services. You've probably once or twice in your career as a consultant, as an agent, sold something that didn't get implemented correctly. Maybe once or twice. So dealing with folks that knew exactly, hey, we've got years of experience, we've got all the right people, we've got all the right project management, we collect all the right artifacts, we deliver great project delivery. That's all great. The challenge for the role that I stepped into was trying to take that set of services and market it, sell it, drive agent activity around it outside of Bridgepoint. So
Yeah. Well, Jamaal, it's interesting that you talk about that. There are a couple of facts out there. McKinsey published early this year, I think it was, 70% of technology projects fail to deliver on time, on budget, or with the desired features and benefits.
Just 70%?
But wait a minute, it gets worse. 19% of projects are considered complete failures. That was Standish Group Chaos Report. And 14% fail outright, just outright, like they deliver zero. That is a complete failure could mean it's in, but it is no value, right? 14% is they die on the vine. The Standish Group Chaos Report also said that companies spent $1.3 trillion on IT projects annually, and approximately $925 million is lost each year due to failed projects. That, my friend, is a staggering staggering amount of waste. And I pull those up, and I'm not a fear salesperson, but the next part of my pitch is like, here are the two problems that we have around why projects fail. Number one, we picked the wrong partners or solution providers or whatever. And two, we don't have the execution skills. And so we've amassed, as a trusted advisor, we've amassed an army to make sure those two things never happen. And that's a whole other episode. And this episode is not about me, but I'm with you on the failed stuff. So you were there for a little bit. Clearly, it was something that, there was probably, it didn't go down a path you had anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
I'd caught up with you back out at Special Forces. I had not known you landed at Nextiva.
Yeah.
I'm super pumped you're there. I'm a big fan of Nextiva in many aspects, but largely because the people in the service and support. The technology is pretty sound. I love the roadmap as to where it's going. I think it's great. I think the Nextiva brand is catching up to the marketplace. Even though you've been around for a long time, people mostly know you as a UCaaS company. And so I think there's some work there to get into the heavy CCaaS player space. A couple of Gartner reports will fix that, then people start doing that, but I know you're in the space. I want to do a bit of a lightning round here. This is usually the part of the episode where I'll just fire out some questions and try to tap into your total recall. Topic is failures and comebacks. Okay.
All right, let's go.
For me, most everything I've learned is the biggest lessons I've learned has come as a result of something where I don't want to call it a failure. I like to call failures opportunities to learn again. What are some places that didn't really work out? What was or some projects or jobs or whatever? And I know we just talked about one particular place, but what's the lesson you learned from it? And what did the comeback look like? And how did you have to adjust your mindset to make that happen?
There's it's funny because I'm thinking musically right now, and not because I'm a musician, but there's a lyric to a song, and I'll define it. It says, take the, I can't remember. It's something about taking the L.
Take the job and
shove it.
I ain't no work. Oh no, sorry, not that one.
You take the L, turn it into earning. That's what learning is.
Okay.
Right. So you're gonna lose sometimes, but there's another one that says you never lose, you learn. Right. You don't lose, you learn something, you take it to the next phase. But there are probably, a handful of things, man. That there's
what's one that pops out?
Thing that pops out is, probably in a sales context, where you did everything right, in terms of like, hey, here's what you said the problem is, here's the solution, here's the price point, and you get the no. I'm thinking of a couple of projects where I had to run the entire sales cycle. This is again, I talk about team selling, but when it's all on you, and you have to fulfill all those roles, you get to that point where you're in front of the customer, and you get the no. No, I'm not. I'm going with something else. I'm not choosing the solution. It's for me. It was developing that, tapping into that resilience and realizing that it wasn't the end of anything. It's just, hey, and some salespeople may say, dude, you just learned that, like you just got to that point. But when it hits you, it hits you.
It hits you.
And you feel like, man, like how many more please?
What I say is it's like the Indy 500. You could be behind on every lap, but if you're ahead in the last lap, right, it's going to work. It's going to work out. And if you're not, you'll get into another race. Maybe you finished in a good spot.
But the whole thing is you stay behind the wheel, right? And that's,
you stay behind the wheel.
For me, that was where, thinking through that, man, that it sucked, but it was the kind of gut punch that you toughen up from. You get punched in the gut, you don't bend, you don't fall down and stay down, you get back up. You go strengthen that core, man.
No doubt. Yeah. Or
Oh,
you
hey,
know what
you
happened.
learn how to block, dummy. Like,
Yeah,
don't just stand there and get punched in the gut. Like, what are you gonna,
exactly.
but all those analogies is coming back to say like, hey, it's gonna happen. Like, why, you don't get into sales because it's like fishing or whatever. It's like
Yeah, you're gonna drop a
not
line and you're not
catching,
gonna get anything sometimes. Yeah, it's
go
not
fishing.
catching. Exactly. Hey, let's
Um,
let's move on to the next topic.
yeah,
How important do you think building a personal brand is?
I think that's very important, and I think there are good ways to do that, and there are some not so good ways to do that in terms of
Beautiful.
building the personal brand.
To
Um,
hear all about it.
I think that the key there is building your brand on results, and not everybody thinks about it that way. Uh, I was actually talking to a coworker today at Nextiva about one of our newer products. It deals with reputation management. And it
Yeah.
dawned on me that everything today, whether you're in small business, medium business, large business, it is an influencer marketplace.
Yes.
And there are products that people rely on, people ages, I don't know, 12 to 18 to influence people 8 to 12 to get their parents to spend money. Crazy.
Yeah.
Like it's like
It's crazy.
you think influencer marketplace, you're thinking about pick a celebrity, pick a good celebrity, bad celebrity, whatever.
Oh
They're
yeah.
hawking some product. That's not that has less impact than the 16-year-old young lady who has developed a very authentic, hey, here's what I'm doing today. Look at these shorts, look at these jeans. Uh, you know, I'm trying this body spray. Like, but it comes across because it's authentic and it grabs that audience with something that's not overhyped. And they'll say, this
Yeah.
sucks. I'm not buying this anymore. Like, oh, I've changed my mind. I'm doing this. But it's based on authenticity. And
Hmm.
when I first said something about results, I think that building a personal brand, it's about authenticity. It's about, what is your work product? And in our
Yeah.
context, in the business context, what are you delivering? It's great to smile. It's great to be on stage. It's great to, you know, um, be recognized when you walk through, just like you probably can't walk through places without 10 people. Hey, Vic, hey, this is Vic,
Sometimes, and now that I've had you on the podcast, it's going to happen a lot more. But for me, the personal brand and that what you say resonates with me, authenticity and results.
yeah,
Man, I'm just going to say it in plain speak. I hate a blowhard.
yeah,
And I don't really hate anybody, but it's a speech thing. I don't like somebody who tells me what they're going to do and doesn't do it.
yeah.
I don't like anybody who's all hype and comes up and then it doesn't deliver and it's always somebody else's fault. My attempt to personal brand over the years has been very, very quiet. It's been about execution and delivery, and then it's been about celebrating the team and not me. So my personal brand was on the corporate world was that I put together the best teams and I let everybody know it. It was never, ever about me. And here in the channel, I think like with my customers, my personal brand is Vic's going to tell me the truth. And, if a product is good or a product is bad or a project is going well or it's not, he's going to tell me the truth. But he's not only going to do that, he's going to do everything in his power to make sure that the D&M team or any resources behind the solution, whether it be at a provider or a consulting firm, anything, that he's going to wrestle this thing into a good spot for me. So, that's that. I think for those listening, the things from both of us there are very, very important. I'm gonna bring one last thing into the lightning round, and I'm gonna tell you. Remember when we talked up top about it getting dark by you?
Oh yeah, look at that.
It's happening to us, right? It's happening to us. So we're just gonna make it here, which is good. You're still looking good though.
All right.
I want to talk about mentorship.
Oh,
Okay. And, you mentioned once or twice, you mentioned your Uncle Earl,
yeah,
right? Being a good mentor. And I love it because when you're blessed with a family member who can
truly a
also be
blessing.
a mentor,
Yeah.
man, you won the lottery, right? Because first of all, they're going to have an interest in you because of blood, right? But then if you're smart enough to pick up on that, or that person has made a big enough impression on you for you to seek it, you won the mentorship lottery. Have you had any other mentors aside from Uncle Earl along the way? And if you don't want to name them, you don't have to, but if you
Oh,
do, it's nice.
the the first person I actually think about is this guy. He's a French guy. His name is Alban Penou.
Mm-hmm.
And he was my immediate supervisor at 8x8.
Okay.
And that's really where I got an opportunity to see somebody really build a team and take care of a team. Like he went out of his way to make sure that people were cared for, that you had training, that you had access. Imagine going from a startup where you're start with less than 10 people. You can go and talk to the developer. You can go and talk to the CEO. You can go and talk to the head sales guy. You can go in the accounting department and like, no, I was here before you got here. Like, fix my thing, like, so would you get into a corporation, and how are you going to get things done? Who's your advocate? Who's going to open doors for you? And, that was a great opportunity for me to see somebody demonstrate the type of team leader, the type of person I wanted to be in that corporate structure where you had a lot of different moving parts. And again, you want to break down those silos, you want to get things done, you want to be able to deliver. You don't want to be in the dark about what's going on with the product because you want to be
No
credible.
pun intended. Yeah.
Because you want to be credible when you're out doing your job. And you're just a great guy that always, to this day, texts me on my birthday. We still keep in touch, it was a person I got to see demonstrate that sort of leadership, care for the team, and breaking down barriers.
Mentorship is a two-way street. You have to seek out a mentor, right? The person who you seek out needs to be willing to provide that. You have to seek it out. That's a two-way street. But then the benefit you get from that, you have an obligation to find somebody else. So, I think for anybody listening out there today, if you don't have a mentor, model success. Find somebody who's doing what you're doing. That's where your advice should come from. That's where your counsel should come from. Saw something on LinkedIn that said, never listen to anything from anybody who's not where you want to be, right? And it's a very broad stroke, but I kind of understand it, right? Yeah. You don't want to listen to somebody with a drinking problem about how to stop drinking, right? That would not, certainly wouldn't make a lot of sense. But for those out there, find a mentor and be one. It's super important. And listen, they say to teach is to learn twice. And so in mentoring people,
that's great. I like that.
You're mentoring yourself. It just really happens. Jamaal, this episode was a 10 out of 10 for me, man. I had such a good time. I learned so many more things about you. My admiration and respect level for you is now, I didn't think it could be any higher. I was already a big fan. I practically am the president of the fan club. I'm signing out autographed pictures on your behalf on a regular basis, but I really enjoyed this time together. And I'm going to take you up on, my request and you saying, yes, I got that on video. So nobody's going to, we're going to get back together in the first quarter of next year. And I want to dive deep on some topics with you, but congratulations on the new appointment at Nextiva.
Thank you.
Very excited for you. And thank you so much for coming on this episode and sharing your soul with us. So I appreciate it.
Vic, I appreciate it. And you know what? You're a great host, man. So
thank you, man.
You're sure you've heard that before, but just the ability to chat with you, open up, take a little walk down memory lane, talk about VHS tapes and jumpers.
Yeah. I love
on
it.
motherboards.
Yeah.
Like, nobody talks about that stuff anymore, but great, man. I really appreciate it. Glad I could be part of your experience.
Thank you so much. You have an awesome night. Appreciate you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.